Good afternoon. Welcome back. Okay, so we will resume our session. Hope all friends will be here within a 5 minutes. We move forward to the second session, which is the role of the GLU Alumni Network in the world of work and the need for global solidarity and global campaigns. Based on this topic, we will proceed our second session. And to moderate this second session, I would like to call upon Rasmi Divekar, TISS GLU Alumni 2013-15 batch. So Rasmi. बीच में. Yes. Okay. So now I would like to call respected Professor Dr. Keshav Adhikari. He's a coordinator of MA Labor Study Program in Tribhuvan University. Dr. Adhikari. Similarly, I would like to call upon Vesna Nuon, Program Manager AFIDA from Cambodia. Sorry. May I request a volunteer to find the name of our speaker and put here in the dais? Okay, this session is a very exciting session for us because one of our presenter is joining from abroad, from virtually, from Penn State University. Jafar Iqbal, who is doing his PhD in Penn State University, University of British Columbia, and he's joining us online, virtually. And he's supported by Brother Kanak Burman. So if he's there, so I would like to request Kanak to be seated here in the desk. Similarly, Brother Ramon from Industrial, and Christine Joy from Philippines. Christine is working on solidarity of Filipino workers. So, Christine. Okay. So we have 6 seats here, 6 including moderators, 6 presenters. Okay. So in this session, we will touch upon labor studies program in Nepal and about the GLU alumni network and ongoing campaigns and solidarity, and future network of GLU alumni with academic institutions, trade unions, etc., other institutions, and other GLU or other alumni projects. So now floor is yours, Rasmi.
Thank you, Tilak. So welcome back, all friends and comrades. Session 2 is about the role of the GLU alumni network in the world of work and what is need for the global solidarity and global campaign. In this session, we will deal with labor studies program in Nepal that is headed by Dr. Adhikari. About our many alumni is working around in different parts of world. They are doing campaigns, they are running different programs. So in this session, some of our alumni will present about their work and the campaigns. So the third, in this session, we will also talking about future network of GLU alumni with academic institutions and other trade unions and other organizations. So I would like to introduce Dr. Keshav Adhikari, coordinator of MA Labor Study Program in Nepal, Tribhuvan University. Yeah. Mr. Jafar Iqbal, he's a PhD scholar in Columbia University. He'll be joining us online. Then Mr. Kanak Barman, he's the organizing secretary of Jatiya Shramik Jyote in Bangladesh. Then we have Viesna Nguyen, country manager, working with Union Aid Abroad in Cambodia. We have Raman, project manager with Industrial in Philippines. And we have Christine Joy, labor organizer from Philippines. And her organization name is Solidarity of Filipino Workers. Right? Okay, so we'll start this session with the presentation of Dr. Adhikari.
Thank you, Rasmi, for this, for giving me this opportunity. And then thank you, Mr. Brother Tilak, for inviting me and then introducing me in this community, GLU Alumni community, and then GLU Global Network. So I have great privilege to be here. And then I am here to just let you know about the start of the labor studies program in Tribhuvan University. Then Nepal is a country where I think most of its young adults, working population going abroad. Labor migration is a major phenomenon of the Nepalese economy at present. And then the Nepal is at a high time from its population's composition, age composition of the population, high time to harness the labor productivity because of the highest proportion of the population is labor force population, but it is the phenomenon of not only the Nepal, it is of that of the South Asian countries phenomenon, but Nepal is again not being able to harness the opportunity given by the age composition of the Nepalese population, labor force. The windows of opportunities, demographic windows of opportunity is opened up, but the country is not getting benefit of it. The sign, any hope, any sign of the getting benefit of it is we are losing day by day. So the windows of opportunity, our demographic projections and then labor force projections estimates have given that in demographic windows of opportunities, Nepal started from the early 90s, early 90s, 1994, 95. From that time it started, and then now it is in midway, and then we are losing the period of the demographic windows of opportunities, and then demographic dividend. Getting the demographic dividend period is passing away by the 2045 or 2050. From that period, Nepalese population is going to be old age composition, so that considering these phenomenon, these issues, where is the problem? Where is the problem? Why the country is not getting benefit of its age composition and the favorable age composition of the population, and then labor relations, where the labor relations is lacking in Nepal. Considering these issues, some enthusiastic professionals from the academicians from the university, and then trade unions movement, trade unions, JTUCC, NTUC, GFONT, these all in collaboration of these trade unions movements from 2019, August 2019, we started, August 2018, we started the establishment of the labor studies program, movement of the establishment of the labor studies program within Tribhuvan University, faculties of humanities and social sciences. Then we formed the course drafting committee, and then we work for the course drafting, and then organize series of meetings and workshops, and then the discussions on the courses, and then finalize the course, list of the course, and to be offered in the four semesters of the university. And then we the faculty board of the humanities and social sciences established the labor studies program course, a master's course in 2019, September 2019. And then the university's apex body, the academic councils, and then the executive council gave permission to establish the course, and then establish the separate the program in November 1919, and then from January 2020 we started the course. And then while course drafting sessions, we have a course sharing workshop with the GLU professors, and then professors from the China University of Labor Relations. And during that time, Professor Christoph was here, and then and then his team, the professor from the Waterwitch University of the South Africa, and then professor from the JNU, and then other professors were there here, and then they reviewed the course, And then course drafting was made on the basis of the review of the GLU courses, the GLU network courses of the GLU networks. So in yeah, and then they approved the course. They approved the course saying yes, it meets the standard, the basic standards of the labor studies program. So that from there we started the course. Now we we have 2 batches running. First intake we had 32 students, and then now they are survival until the 4th semester is about 22 students are still we calculate survival rate. The survival rate is the 22 students are there. And then in second batch 15 students were taken enrolled, and now they are doing their second semester's courses and courses. So in this way our course is, and there are 4 semesters, and then in 4 semesters 5 papers of 3 credits each we offer, and then altogether 63 credits they have to complete. And then in 4th semesters, after completion of the 4th semester exams, they have to write their mandatorily write the dissertation thesis, and the thesis carries the 6 credits. In this way 63 credits course students have to complete. And then I think this is the international standard credits systems university we introduced. And now our my topic is about the role of the GLU alumni network in the world of work, need for global solidarity and global campaigns. Now this GLU community is here, GLU network community is here, alumni, and then Nepalese alumni, Nepalese as well as South Asian communities is here. And then yes, I like to request you communities to consider to give solidarity to be alumnus of the labor studies program to our studies, our graduates of the master's programs from the Tribhuvan University also, so that they will feel yes, we are not alone, we have a global networking, so that they will contribute the labor movement from the 2 sides. One, I found here listening the introduction, when listening to the introduction session, some of the GLU graduates are working for the universities in academia, others working for the trade union movements, and then industries, different industries. Then from trade unions and then industries, you will produce a wide ranging knowledges, experiences, knowledge, and then that knowledge again gave feedback to the academia, and then academia incorporates your knowledge. The people working in outside of the academia, their knowledge would be again the feedback to the academia to incorporate in the academic discourses. In that way, 2 way. First, academia give the skills and knowledge, and then second, academia get the experiences, knowledge and experiences from the outside of the outside, so that the both contribute each other to grow together, and then enhance the solidarity, so that this community. And now the solidarity from the academia side, how we can promote. So we are having now our first intake is students are going to entering into the phase of the thesis writing. During the thesis writing period, we can choose among you, we can choose the external evaluators. That would be the solidarity for the university systems. And then we are planning we are preparing for the establishment of our regular publication, a journal, annual publication, a journal, Labor Journal Nepal, Labor Journal Nepal, and then for that Labor Journal, I welcome, I ask for the support to to strengthen, to collaborate on the labor journal, publication of the labor journal by writing research articles, papers. Yeah, thank you. Papers, and then peer reviewers, to be the being peer reviewers, and then editorial, being in the editorial boards. In this way, we can strengthen the collaboration, and then solidarity, continue the solidarity on the promotion of the labor studies program and labor issues, then from both academia side and then the labor movement side. So this would be the consolidation of the way to the consolidation of the solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Keshavji. Now we will go to our next speakers, Mr. Jafar Iqbal, and Kanak will be jointly presenting with him. So,
Brother Jafar, just a minute. Please hold a minute. We are fixing your sound. Just a minute. Please hold on. One minute, please. Jafar, do you hear me? Please hold a minute. Hold a minute. We are fixing your sound. Can you speak to check your sound?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello?
Sorry, Jafar. You could you please unplug your from your input device or output device? There is some issues. Could you please unplug?
So there is nothing plugged in my laptop. So I'm okay. So there is nothing to unplug it because I'm working from the laptop, detached from all other devices.
Minutes. Okay, you found it. Okay. Now I can start now. You can put it up later. Well, I mean, yes, in a couple of minutes, I just quickly run through a campaign that we have organized in Cambodia, but actually the campaign is beyond the country level. Again, is It's in Asia and Pacific, and there's some international component of the campaign, which is at international level. So that is called asbestos campaign, and you know, I think many of you may know it has been part of the campaign that international trade unions and some of the country trade union has taken. So it's asbestos. Yeah, I think it's a mineral fibers which cause cancer on a long-term basis. So the result of it would be found in like 25 to 30 years, and but that's a part of the argument from many of the government that it's you know, it's not quick. Lead time is very high, so the impact is not found. But yeah, so yeah, this campaign yeah is part of the occupational health and safety. Is occupational diseases, and the sectors which face the most is really construction, transport. You know, so those who are exposed to asbestos containing materials, some of the like garment sector is probably also involves the use of the asbestos containing material as well. So that's the 5-year campaign program that Union Aid Abroad Africa run in Cambodia, but also involves the campaign in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Laos, and yes, so. Yeah, so internationally, what involved this campaign is the you know, the export country. So asbestos is produced in Kazakhstan, in Russia now. It used to be Canada, but they stopped mining asbestos anymore. So that is really exported from Kazakhstan, Russia, and then through China. Yeah. And then Asia Pacific is probably the last market for asbestos consumption. That asbestos could not be treated in other part of the world anymore because more and more countries has banned asbestos. So up to now, 67 countries has banned asbestos. Very few countries in Asia, Brunei, Singapore ban only in construction sector. So here it is, it's a last market. So and of course many of the government would argue that it's very difficult for developing country, poor country, to ban, you know, such a product which contain in many of the materials, particularly construction, which is booming in different countries. So that's the basis for the campaign. So it's kind of getting government, getting employers and particularly trade unions and workers to be aware of the danger of this substance, and look at the high risk sectors, construction, transport, in some cases even garment sector as well. And then using a stakeholder approach. So in Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam all has like a national working group on asbestos. It's a tripartite plus body. You know, at the country level, they have to, they need to generate data on, you know, what is the volume of the import of asbestos, where it is used. What is the capacity? What is the country capacity to track, to monitor, and including the treatment? You know, if it is like, would the health department at the country level be able to diagnose, for example, because you know they have to diagnose from the cancer. You know, what would be caused by asbestos? Even at the workplace, predominantly it's caused by asbestos. Yeah, so that is campaign that we run, and at the international level, it's really work with the multilateral financial institutions like ADB, AIIB is investment bank in China, you know, and both by the way, both of the bank have, and that is part of the wins, part of the small wins toward the bigger win is probably ADB will announce in February or March that they will ban use of asbestos in their investment, in their loan, which is a very big announcement, hopefully beginning of next year, as the ADB headquarters has committed. The International Investment Bank has already declared their commitment to exclude asbestos in their investment projects. So it's at the international financial institution which loan many countries in our region. Country-wide, it's much more difficult. As I said, it's difficult for the government to commit it. Even so, the strategy under the campaign is really to develop what we call a profile, a national profile on roadmap, just to identify, like, you know, in Vietnam, for example, they imported a lot of the construction material than in Cambodia, for example, you know, and then the import is in two forms. Is in the fiber, Cambodia still import a small fiber, but then asbestos containing material is much more, you know, and then so even a country which has banned, like in Australia, which has banned 10 years ago, still there is an opportunity where the asbestos containing material still come to the country because of the lack of the inspections and yeah. So that is, and then of course in the campaign country, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Indonesia, there has been an effort to develop a roadmap. So really like identify where the risk, high risk sectors, and then national capacity, like Cambodia, include the lab. You know, it's like a lab to identify whether the asbestos contain materials, because the employer would say, okay, they have to send products to neighboring country or even far away country. And then the classic example recently that we have found is the Johnson & Johnson baby powder product, which has been, of course, Johnson & Johnson has paid a lot of money in the US and Canada to pay for compensation caused by their product. So and that's you know, that involve product by products review by the national mechanism, which trade union is part of the structure. Both in Laos and Vietnam has a trade union representation. Likewise in Indonesia. One small success in Indonesia is Bandung. Bandung has banned, in the city of Bandung has banned asbestos. So that's it. And then of course in Cambodia, part of the campaign is involved raising awareness among the construction workers and support the construction national trade union federations to be equipped with enough information, enough demands to the employers, which is the construction association, and the government to ban. And the discussion at Cambodia now, you know, would they be able to ban it in the next 4 years? And you know, at one time, the Vietnamese Prime Minister even announced that Vietnam would ban in 2023. Even the decision now from our campaign gathering is that the year is pushed towards late, like 2028 something. So there is still negotiation on the target year for banning of asbestos. Thank you.
If that problem is not fixed, then we. Yeah, start. Yes, yes, Jafar, we can hear you. Please start your presentation. Yeah,
Perfect. Okay.
yeah.
So let me share my screen then. So given the time constraint and the technical difficulties, same time we pick the movement, those are successful. And one of the major successful events in the history of the government industry in Bangladesh is 2006 minimum wage movement.
Jafar,
Extensively dig out that history. So my time is over.
no, you have only 2 minutes now. So please, I request you to expedite the presentation, please.
Perfect, Rashmi. Like many, but she was the perfect example, being harassed and attempted.
Jafar, last 1 minute.
So I'm finished. So attempted to. If I'm finished.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Jafar. Yeah. And you can stay online if you anybody have a question after we finish all the presentation. So be here with us.
Yeah, so Rashmi, one thing is here, my time is 1 a.m.
Oh,
I have been
okay.
quite long, and so I may not be able to continue for the full session of the discussion.
No problem.
However, as I mentioned, the main architect of this campaign is the
Yes, he is here. He is here. So he will be. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Jafar.
Thank you again.
Okay. So next, I would like to request Christine to present her work.
Does it work? Does it work? Careful. Can you open your... That's not showing. It's not up.
Is it already?
No. Oh, it's here.
There we are. Amazing.
Good.
Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Christine Joy Galunan, and as I mentioned earlier, I completed my GLU program in Brazil, in the University of Campinas. And one reason why I am very grateful for the GLU program, aside from being exposed to and interacting with trade union activists from different countries, and also having the tools to analyze these issues, is also being exposed to some alternative policies governing labor, with in particular on wages, which is what we are going to be discussing in BMP's campaign. So if you could go back to the slides, thank you. So this presentation is entitled "The Fight for Living Wages in the Philippines, a Campaign of My Labor Movement, Bukluran ng Manggagawang Pilipino, or Solidarity of Filipino Workers." It's a militant socialist labor movement that is composed of 18 federations across 8 regions in the Philippines. So next please, or I'm controlling it, so I should know when to click next. Okay, so for this presentation, I will be going through first the framework of living wages. How do we engage with the issue? How do we look at the policy levers that are particular to this issue? And we will be focusing on the case of the living wage campaign that we have engaged with in 2022, and that has 3 components, each corresponding to the framework that we have. And then we'll be presenting some challenges and issues that we are confronting, and perhaps you can also help us to formulate responses to. And lastly, we'll just be describing some immediate steps forward that we have come across, at least in the last quarter of 2022 and onwards. So this is the framework of the living wage that BMP adopts in our campaign. We think of the living wage as a combination of 3 components, namely the minimum wage, which is statutory, the cost of living, which we believe should be negotiated at the firm or industry level, and third, the social wage, which is the responsibility of the state. So I won't go too much into detail, but the minimum wage in the Philippines follows a 2-tiered system, one that is set in the regional level, and this includes these 4 factors that are being considered: poverty, average wages, the level that can supposedly induce investments, and lastly, the capacity of employers to pay. Second is the component of cost of living. As we said, this has to be negotiated, and this can only be done first on the level of productivity, the second tier of the minimum wage. But we are also looking at a very important part of the cost of living factor, which is unions and collective bargaining agreements that can already raise the level of the wage to nearer cost of living, which in the Philippines is about, according to recent estimates, 1,200 pesos to 1,600, which is around, how many dollars is that? 200, right? Or 20, around that, 25 to 30. And with that, we also look at social wage, or what the state is supposed to be augmenting in the cost of living. Therefore, we don't look at wages only as responsibility of companies to provide, but as for the state to be responsible for. And these include accessible and affordable public services, social protection, and public employment. And we also make the distinction between the nominal wage, which is the wage that is set regardless of the price level, and the real wage, which erodes with inflation. Okay? And first, our basis for this campaign is looking at the distribution between the profits of employers and workers' wages. We see that actually there is a high capacity to pay because over 43% of the GDP is considered operating surplus of the businesses. And this already means that employers have the capacity to raise the minimum wage based on these estimates. Second, we also see that wages have not been able to keep up with inflation. Here we see a comparison between the minimum wage as it is in real terms versus how it would be if the minimum wage had caught up with inflation. So the curve you see there actually represents the size and the scale of the wage debt that workers are being subjected to because minimum wages do not rise in accordance with inflation. And we also see challenges with regard to the negotiated cost of living. That is first, as was mentioned earlier, trade union density in the Philippines has declined from 8.7% in 2010 to even lower 7% in 2021. Second, we also see a decline in collective bargaining agreements from 959 in 2019 to 807 in 2021. Only 2 years, that already is 15% decrease. And lastly, we have also been experiencing repression of labor organizing through unlawful arrests, intervention of police in legal strikes, among others. And as for the social wage, we see several challenges. First is the systemic privatization of essential public services. That includes energy, water, housing, and education. These commodities have been shown to be fluctuating in a volatile manner and thus are eroding real wages. Second, we also see that social protection in the Philippines remains targeted. There is no functioning unemployment insurance apart from a very limited framework of the DOLE Tupad program. And lastly, we see an intensification of market liberalization, wherein even in the situation now where the price of fuel, energy, and transport has been increasing, the government does not want to provide universal subsidies or is averse in general to deploying price controls. And so we see here an increase in the prices of essential services. We have housing that increased almost 25% in the course of 9 years. And we also see here transport and fuel, which have increased by almost 30%. And food and non-alcoholic beverages, especially vegetables, have risen by almost 40% in those 9 years. But wages have not increased in the same degree. And the same is true with if we compare the family poverty and threshold. And this is why we have launched the minimum wage campaign and the living wage campaign. So this has 3 components. First, we have filed the petition for the 750 minimum wage nationwide. This was filed in 7 regions in the Philippines. And this is with the wage debt and the cost of living crisis in mind, which we believe is shared among regions, and there is no meaningful variation in the cost of living that would require such differences between regions. Second, this, we believe, will primarily function for wages to catch up with inflation, and we have deployed a variety of strategies, including petitions and hearings with regional wage boards. We have also mobilized our union bases and even workers who are not part of unions but want to be part of this. And second, we have also engaged in alliances in the regional level. For example, in Region 4A, we have engaged in the Workers' Initiative for Wage Increases, Win for Win, which has the membership of about 6 union federations and movements in the nation and regional level. We have also adopted some newer forms of engaging with people, and that includes webinar to reach a greater mass. So these are some of the instances and the strategies that we have deployed. You have seen here the petition that's being filed in the Regional Wage Board hearings, and also the alliances that are being built across these issues. I have not included here, but there has been significant progress in a sense that the regions where we filed the wage petitions actually increased the amount. Of course, we believe it's not significant and has been since eaten up by inflation, but the fight continues, as we always say. Second, we also believe that it's important for us to combat union decline and labor repression in order to increase the capacity to negotiate the cost of living. And that includes other interlinked campaigns that deal with conditions where unions and collective bargaining can flourish. This primarily centers on first ending contractualization, or what we call trilateral employment, which weakens the employer-employee relationship and therefore has a very adverse effect on unionization, because under which will the workers unionize? Under the agency or under the employer? So this is an ongoing and very protracted legal battle. Second, we also have been building links and generating public support for tripartite workers' councils at the local government level. So we've been doing this in Valenzuela, also in Bacolod and Pasig, to strengthen the social partnership between the unions and the workers and the local governments. To erode the very strong anti-unionism in Metro Manila that we are seeing. And third, we have been engaged in political mobilizations and legal actions challenging the anti-terrorism law that was mentioned earlier in order to demand for greater civil society and democratic spaces. Because as long as red tagging exists in the Philippines, labor movements cannot prosper and really negotiate for their rights. Lastly, the campaign for living wages in 2022 also has a very important pillar that is strengthening public services and government intervention. The labor movement, particularly BMP, has been very active in demanding for lower energy prices, that is combating price gouging in the monopoly energy sector, and also for pushing for just transition to lower our dependence on these costly fossil fuels. Second, we have also a campaign on the wealth tax, which we hope can increase government revenues and can support fiscal spending for social protection. And lastly, we are constantly challenging privatization initiatives in utilities as well as in education and health. And this is also why we need to strengthen public sector unions. Some challenges and issues before I end. The first is the demand for a higher minimum wage, of course, needs to incorporate the concern of micro, small, and medium enterprises. And this is where we see that the government needs to take a greater and active role, because we cannot burden the smaller enterprises with higher minimum wages, but the government can do something to augment this gap. Second, we also see that there is a problem with the current investment attraction framework of the Philippines that relies on low wages as an investment incentive. What we think is that the Philippines can advance greater steps towards lower energy prices, which according to investors are a major cost. And we also need to incorporate agro-industrial policy, a more mindful industrial policy in which workers' productivity and their wages come hand in hand with the gains in growth of these sectors. Third, we also see that precarious work continues to demobilize the working class, as we saw earlier in the slide on unionization, as well as the continuing repression of labor organizing. These must be consistently challenged, and this is why we believe that unions must also take a very political role, especially in the context of authoritarian regimes where we cannot separate the economic concerns from the political.
Christine,
And
last 1 minute.
okay, thank you. And lastly, what we are seeing that the Global Labor University alumni can help very much and be active towards is challenging the prevalence of neoliberal economic policy making, which has a direct impact on workers, especially in the context of wage setting. The first is we need to challenge the belief that higher wages would lead to inflation, this wage price spiral that is currently being deployed by economic policy makers in the Philippines and elsewhere. We need to see and to assert that higher wages create a virtuous cycle of employment and productivity in the country. Second, we also need to challenge that universal social protection is costly, and we need to reassert that fiscal spending must work for the interests of people and the working class. Third, And most important, I think, we need to challenge the dominant economic paradigm that precarious work is a stepping stone to formal employment, as evidence in our country suggests that that is not happening. What is happening is greater labor segmentation, lower wages, and higher inequalities among workers. So these are just some immediate steps forward that we've been doing. We've been petitioning the Department of Labor and Employment towards these demands, and I've also been engaged in a research on wage diminution in government-owned and controlled corporations, where we demonstrate that market-based wage setting does not and should not apply to workers providing public services. So that is all. Thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing more from our audience and also from other panelists. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Christine. Now we'll go to our next and last speaker for this session, Ramon. Yes, yeah, you can start.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, brothers and sisters. My presentation is about looking at the collaboration between the GLU alumni and, of course, with the Global Union Federations. Just quickly to introduce our organization, of course, Industrial Global Union is a campaign organization. It's practically mainly building unity and power. Industrial Global Union, it has a presence in 140 countries with 50 million workers. And the Industrial Global Union has been in the 14 sectoral jurisdictions. That includes mostly in the manufacturing sectors, including aerospace, textile and garment, base metal, energy. And the rest of it are considered as in the manufacturing and production sectors. And of course, there's are two cross-sectoral groups that belong to industrial, which are very important, is the white-collar sector, and of course, the women as part of the major concern. And as part of the context of trying to look on the campaign of Industrial, because Industrial has been a campaign organization, and we did a lot of campaigns, particularly on the issue of respecting workers' rights, fundamental workers' rights, but looking at the context of the changing pattern of globalization, which drives a new paradigm of exposing the realities of inequalities between the capitals and labor. And this, you can see that there are mega drivers of change, and that change the world of work. And one of which is looking at the demographic and, of course, the global change in the climate, and, of course, the fragmented production systems, the rising of income inequality, and the digitalization of work, and, of course, the introduction of new technologies. And looking at that context, referring to the challenges that we have encountered, and of course, not to mention the impact of global COVID-19 pandemic, it exposed the division between the rich and the poor. And according to Oxfam study, 26 wealthy individuals control as much wealth as the 3.8 billion people in the world. So meaning that these are the who make up the poorest half of humanity, and the wealth of those are controlled by few elites. And inequality persists, and it hit hard those individuals, particularly women and families that were already struggling even before the crisis. It looks like to growth and economic recovery. And also the context of the global crisis has been used mainly by the employers to use the COVID-19 as a pretext to further trample human rights and trade union rights. And of course, you might also repair that new technologies and platforms of work that are being introduced without taking into account employment and social impact make workers more vulnerable to exploitation. And of course, it is worth to mention the impact of climate change that the global environment are being more degraded, produced. And in this context, that the industry are looking on the idea of a campaign that that works for everyone practically. But of course, we have to take into account the different experiences of workers and families in different parts of the world. There are common issues, but there are, of course, different contexts and consequences and situations that are happening in every part of the world. So the idea of having a campaign that can carry by the many workers and peoples and solidify the forces of the global social movement and of course the global trade union movement. And recently, this year in October 7, there was a launching of a global campaign, which is the United for a Just Future. It is composed of building blocks for a just future that looking at the workers' rights, collective bargaining, increasing union density, promoting decent wage, social protection, human rights, particularly looking on the accountability of multinational corporations in a human rights due diligence. And of course, most important, I think, is the global solidarity. Next, please. So here in this, at this point, we have to look back on the experiences and, of course, collaboration between different trade union organizations and global social movement. For example, there are this experience that North Union supporting Southern-led initiatives like in the trade agreements that are looking on how the Global South and Global North are collaborating in proposing for a sustainable industrial policy and trade issues. There was also an initiative to form an alliance, coalition, and network building that builds on more cohesive and collaborative works between different partners. Like, for example, we have been experiencing in developing networks among unions in different countries, looking at the different multinational corporation suppliers. And I think this is very important that the GLU alumni should take into account on how we can manage to collaborate more to strengthen the discourse and arguments and positions of the global union federations as far as asserting the right on those campaigns, for example, in the United for a Just Future. And these are all examples on how we launch our campaign this year. For example, in the Philippines, we launched it using Security of Tenure Bill as a platform to launch the campaign. In Japan, I think you have known the Shinto Offensive that they also launched it in their campaign for decent wage in their summer offensive. In Pakistan, we also launched it in their campaign for the launching of ratifying Convention 176 on Safety on Health and Mines. And in in October 7 and the following in the succeeding years, there will be more and more massive campaign based on this platform of United for a Just Future. And we encourage everyone, colleagues from different parts of the world and here in our region to collaborate more together with, of course, with our GLU alumni. Thank you for your attention.
I hope we are in time. And we have few minutes for question answers.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, yeah. So let me just conclude this session and we'll go for a tea break then. If they have, we can, take one or two. Any question from the audience? Okay.
I have a question. Brother Kanak, you were in the campaign with Brother Iqbal from Bangladesh, right? On the
Yeah, it's we will start. It's beginning the corona pandemic.
during the corona.
Already almost 2 years. Almost
So you have about 20 million followers now?
20 millions.
How many millions?
Almost.
How many millions?
Per event, it almost 10 or 20,000. 10 or 20,000 workers and others people, it's viewers, and to be continue our program.